Working for the Aldermere Republic. Our boy is an outstanding soldier. He is a member of the Ghosts, a unique unit of elite troops. Around the world, both terrorist groups and militaries are afraid of this specific group. There's a reason they're referred to as the best special forces. Even despite these already outstanding troops, our son stands out above the rest. Cy George is his name. Bro is a real-life battle machine. On the battlefield, he can calculate numbers as easily as if they were on an abacus. Just hearing his name makes people tremble with fear. He has been given a nickname that accurately describes his personality because of this as well. Mr. War gained both admirers and foes as a result of his activities. Adversaries who desire his death. He ultimately met his terrible end. He was killed by gunfire. Now don't misunderstand. It wasn't simply hot air with all the glaze I just flung at our boy. No enemy in the world could ever defeat a beast like him. In actuality, the people he had thought of as his allies betrayed him. He carried out a specific assignment so skillfully that he destroyed the whole opposing army in record time by himself. Naturally, his avaricious Captain Beck, who desired attention, was not pleased with this. Thus, the poor man was mercilessly slaughtered in the end. He was shocked to learn that he had been deceived, even as he was dying. Before his thoughts went blank, a picture of a certain woman, Sophia, appeared in his head. When he opened his eyes after going black, he discovered a decaying corpse waiting to make love to him. But after pushing the body away, he discovered that he was lying surrounded by a heap of dead bodies. A garbage truck carrying all of these corpses quickly dumped everything over the cliff. George was able to save his life by grabbing the ledge of the cliff as the bodies rained into the river. He genuinely teetered on the brink of death before swiftly ascending. It was astounding how many bodies he had just witnessed being dumped. The men who disposed of these rotting corpses appeared unconcerned about it, as if disposing of dozens of rotting corpses was simply another day in the life. They were happy to have some extra food to feed the fish in Tokyo Bay. In relation to Tokyo, it appears that our youngster awoke in Japan, which was his native land in a previous existence. George was shot dead on July 6, 2025, and for some background, he has been reborn in a location called the Island of Despair. George, of course, doesn't know what the devil is happening. He was on a mission in the Middle East when he last remembered. However, he has since been taken to Japan's Tokyo Bay. The total doesn't add up. And why are there so many bodies that were simply thrown in front of him? Later, in his hobo attire, he is seen running through a thick jungle. But even after this brief run, he is breathing deeply, as if he had just completed a marathon. His physique doesn't seem to be as strong and resilient as it used to be. His stomach rumbles as if on cue, aching for some food to give his muscles and brain the well-earned glucose they require. He eventually locates bamboo with enough water in it to temporarily keep him hydrated. Perched on a towering tree, the aerial perspective enables him to identify a small community consisting of a few hundred homes. It would be far more acceptable to refer to it as a slum rather than a town. George examines his circumstances while strolling around the filthy streets. Based on his understanding, this location is close to Tokyo Bay. However, upon reflection, a filthy slum such as this is not typical of Japan. His gaze suddenly lands on something startling. He is staring at himself in shock as he looks into a mirror. He has changed from who he was before. It's not his body. He is called Michio by someone screaming out to him from behind, which further complicates matters. George's instincts for survival take over, and he instantly snatches the unidentified person who dared to touch his shoulder without warning. It's safe to believe that this individual poses no threat because he appears to be unarmed. Thus, our boy releases his hold on the man. In addition, this unidentified individual may be the one with the answers to all of the difficult problems that George is struggling with. George first lets the fact that his name in this incarnation is Michio sink in. Or at least that's what this unidentified individual claims. Next, it should be noted that this unidentified individual regards our boy as a buddy. After calming down and expressing regret for his recent aggressive behavior, my guy offers to help his pal get up. Given that our son has received a severe beating, the friend is happy to see him doing well. Naturally, Michio has no recollection of encountering such disagreeable circumstances. The friend brings up Zeha, the bastard responsible for their suffering. As if called forth by their dreadful destiny, the source of fear appears just behind them before the friend has a chance to explain. According to my scumbag senses or yelling, this guy is just your typical buff gorilla who believes he is the main character. This jerk is upset that these two dared to use his name without using the appropriate honorifics after overhearing the purple-haired guy mention it. How impolite of these little children to act in such a way. They need to be disciplined. The poor guy didn't even try to dodge the gorilla's crushing hit, which he delivered with his fist balled up. He skids backward from the hit. The guy appears dissatisfied and wants to release more of his bottled-up rage, despite the fact that he directed all of his displeasure into that one punch. Taking the unfortunate man by the hair, He reminds him of the rules, which solely benefit this jerk, and that anyone who disobeys them will only be given a place in the afterlife. The snarky friend, unable to take it any longer, blames Michio for everything, saying that our boy was the one who carelessly and without honorifics called the gorilla. This cunning friend somehow persuades the gorilla, who is now prepared to target Michio. The scrawny guy is yanked away, and he faces our boy. He says that he was shocked to see our son still alive because he didn't think he would, at least not after the last thrashing. No matter how hostile this ugly gorilla acts, my guy doesn't care. Even the gorilla can't help but notice how blank he is. This jerk is only more tempted to beat our boy as a result. My husband remains cool as a cucumber, even in that situation. There was absolutely no fear on his face. When the bastard's ego finally gets the better of him, he swings a punch at our hero, who simply lets it go by him. With hardly any brains behind that swing, this bastard is all brawn. Michio can actually tell that this guy is a novice who lacks experience. My person usually avoids conflict with civilians. He must, however, take action to maintain his composure, because he is being attacked. When Bro turns his switch, he transforms from an ordinary adolescent into the next Mike Tyson. He precisely dodges and allows the fatty's punch to pass over his head before launching his own assault. The bastard's brain is truly jumbled by the crushing blow. His ego is irreparably damaged, even if he may have survived physically. Our boy's body lacks physical strength, which is the only reason this guy didn't get his head popped. However, that is insufficient justification for our boy to give up. Before planting his feet and delivering a deadly shoulder smash directly on that large, impossible-to-miss face, he first glides to the fatty's left to evade the approaching hit. Blood pours from his mouth, as broken tooth fragments scatter all around. This is the pig's first taste of reality. In the end, he is not the protagonist. If this jerk really wants to, Michio is more than happy to provide the rest of the film. This is only the trailer. Fatty can leave if not. He's not into squabbling with amateurs. Michio turns on his heels, believing the argument is ended after saying such hurtful, damaged words. However, we are all aware that this cliched obese guy has some wicked tactics. He brandishes a knife, a real live knife, at a teenager who isn't even on par with him. This scumbag is multiplied by 100. With that sharp knife in his hand, he charges toward our son, attempting to kill him. Even though Michio no longer possesses his former body, his spark remains. He feels the blow coming. A child headbutts him aside and blocks the dagger's path before he can respond. Michio deflects the dagger after meeting it again with agility. His glares are more lethal than the knife itself, and he locks the bastard's hands. This fatty is obviously prepared to kill or be killed because he pulled a weapon. My guy is therefore more than willing to grant this suicidal maniac's wish. He tripped the jerk, who is the size of an actual elephant, and then slam dunks him after hitting him over the collarbone. The child who put everything on the line is left speechless, unable to process what Michio just did. However, we are all aware that it is really genuine. Living evidence may be seen in the fatty's screams of pain as they escape from his fat ass. Before he has a time to recover, my buddy is prepared to deliver another devastating blow. There you have it, the final blow meant to knock this jerk out of the sky. The child looks on in wonder as my buddy pulls back his bleeding fist. It may have knocked the bastard out, but blowing his head off wasn't enough. My partner had intended to take this guy straight to the cemetery, but he was once again thwarted by his frail physique. Compared to his previous abilities, the damage is minimal. Therefore, it's imperative that he begin working on this frail body in order to regain his former level of strength. Not to be overlooked is the child standing in the backdrop, staring in wonder. When the weak-ass Michio he knew changed into this macho man, he had absolutely no idea. The child demands answers immediately. Michio chooses to be somewhat truthful. He says he can't recall anyone, including this child, because he has amnesia. The child identifies himself as the man who lives next door, Kyo. Michio claims to have no memory of anyone named Kyo, and just begins to stroll past the pig's body. Hearing this irritates the little child. How can Michio forget their shared bond when they make such a crazy duo? Meanwhile, the pig is lying on the ground. When his skull practically reached boiling point, his switch finally flicked. Our two are walking through the filthy slum streets in the meantime. The battle sequence my guy put up against that oppressive lard has the kid completely giddy. He wants to learn a few moves of his own because he is so motivated. Michio claims he wants to know more about this island and dismisses everything Kyo says. The child goes on to say that their home is an island of industrial garbage that floats in Tokyo Bay. In essence, an empire of trash that is rife with dirt and disregard. This appears to be the first time that Michio has heard of such a location in Japan. Here, women and children make ends meet by selling goods or sifting through trash, while men are compelled to sell their brains and souls. Furthermore, there is no such thing as security. It would be an understatement to refer to this area as a cesspool. Progress dies there in a rotting place of dirt. Michio strains his head and believes that only areas devastated by conflict have slums like these. Or worse, perhaps. They stumble onto a bakery selling diarrhea while out for a stroll. I'm talking about food that is hardly edible. Even at that point, the child begins to drool because he is so hungry for that stale bread. This broke kid's ego gets damaged when the shop owner tries to shoo him away. Who granted this jerk the authority to pass judgment on others? My boyfriend then takes out a banknote and places it on the counter. The shop owner is shocked to see that much money coming from a hobo-like teen. Meanwhile, Kyo is ecstatic to get the bread. He is genuinely ecstatic, but he wants to know how he acquired this much money. The boy says he picked it up in a recent altercation. Even though he doesn't enjoy robbing dead men, in a situation like this, every penny counts, and survival is more important than ethics. Naturally, Kyo can tell this isn't the Michio he recalls after hearing him speak in such a manner. They reach the child's home after some time. The mother of the child lies on the bed indoors, looking weak and ill. With the bread he received, the cheerful child is excited to announce that they will be having a feast tonight. The mother appears to be a withered leaf. She is obviously malnourished, as seen by her condition. Even still, the mother wants the child to eat the bread since she is more worried for him. "I'm already well fed," the adoring youngster tells his adoring mother. This is all for her consumption. The child reassures the mother once more and urges her to eat it when she persists. Our boy's face lights up when he sees such a touching moment. Trouble soon comes though. The front door appears to be stuck, despite Michio's best efforts to open it. Within the house, the fire has begun to spread. Additionally, they will be the ideal food for Mother Nature if they are unable to flee. Miners working for the same pig, who seem to want even more beatings, have set fire to their crib, as though a single round wasn't sufficient. He believes that he is the center of the universe and will not rest until he receives his retribution. While the fire spreads more quickly than the boomer parents sharing conspiracy theories on WhatsApp, our son is making every effort to tear the door apart and leap to the other side in the meantime. But no matter how hard he tries, nothing works. His instinct as a soldier tells him that this is a complex ambush. The door has been blocked from the outside by the adversary. At least 8 or 9 assailants are out there, waiting. His eyes fly throughout the home, searching for anything that might constitute a makeshift weapon. At last, he fixes his gaze on a pouch that appears to hold something. My buddy quickly grabs the pouch, and with a single kick, blasts the door open. They even toss the men who are guarding the gate like garbage bags. That dirty bastard and his dirty sidekicks are the only things waiting for our lad outdoors. As its prey emerges to be murdered, the entire pack lets out a hyena-like cackle. The fat ass gives the command for his pussy troops to round him from all sides, and the workers submit to their boss. They totally enclose our lad, and the fire behind him makes sure he's stuck. Fighting these jerks is now the only viable option. This obese ass who hasn't learned his lesson is clearly not someone he's clicking with. The bastard thinks he's got it covered and replies with a snarky smile. We all know who is going to have their ass whooped though. He is here to discipline our child for hurting his ego. And the death penalty is the only suitable penalty for that offense. Alright then. My boyfriend is once again prepared to show this pig how utterly incorrect he is and to wipe off what little dignity he still has. In the backdrop, the mother and son pair are gasping for air as the abrasive smoke enters their lungs. When the child reaches out to his friend Michio, he answers and motions for them to run as soon as they can. One of the punching bags runs directly into his demise as the fight begins. To the bastard, the possession of a weapon equates to victory over an unarmed adversary. He doesn't know much though. He failed to notice that this bag of rocks was striking his head with enough force to permanently knock him down. The onlooker's jaws are left dangling, as is that fat person. In fact, Michio swiped the identical pouch before getting out of the crib. He created a homemade weapon out of linen and small stones using the pouch. My guy refers to it as one of the blackjack strategies. When utilized properly, this baby may be rather powerful. On impact, it can easily crush a skull when twisted to gain velocity. It's just as dangerous even if it looks like a charming, simple weapon to construct. Unaware of the type of situation they're in, the other goons foolishly charge at their opponent. But with that weapon of his, my guy slays the adversaries, destroying them one by one. In my opinion, it's the ideal skull smasher. All of that bastard's confidence is now vanished, just as our lad promised. After all the males have been eliminated, my guy approaches the last cookie he needs to shatter. The poor guy challenges our boy and runs directly at him in a situation when it's a matter of life or death. He might as well try if he's going to perish. The bastard's hand is completely destroyed by my guy's swinging rucksack. When this whining bitch gets boned from behind, all he can do is whine aloud. He's lying on the ground with the dagger he earlier clutched menacingly. Thanks to a child who isn't even half his age, the large man is now on his knees. And that's precisely why this loss is so embarrassing. My guy is prepared to strike the last blow to permanently defeat this guy. However, the large guy becomes a whimpering mess and begs to be spared. When Michio swings that sack of rocks once more, prepared to kill him, all the pleading is in vain. Michio is about to do something, but luckily for the bastard, the young child jumps in and stops him. As if our boy didn't already know that killing is wrong, the child begs while spewing moralistic nonsense. However, Michio ignores the child's rambling. He builds momentum by swinging it repeatedly. As my partner continues to spin that bag, the whimpering wretch begins to flee for his life. Once he has accumulated enough momentum, he expertly channels all of the inertia toward that jerk. Fortunately, the terrible blow fails to land and instead topples a nearby tree. It's crazy that with that tremendous impact, the bro actually brought down a tree. Now consider the consequences of the hit landing on the fatty's ass. His ass flying with bits and chunks is something I truly want to see. My man was also hoping for the same thing, and he's sad that he didn't get it. At last, the whining ass escapes with his life. At last, the child lets out a sigh of relief. We observe that obese ass named Ziha meeting his boss somewhere in a shaded warehouse at night under the moon. Sucking up, he begs to kill Michio, accusing the adolescent of being a monster responsible for their men's devastation. To Ziha's delight, he eventually succeeds in winning over his boss. However, he was unaware that his boss would deliver the blow that left his face in a gory mess. The boss is furious to learn that an ordinary slave miner beat up this fat ass. He cannot put up with this, and this fat person needs to be disciplined. Execution-level punishment will also be applied. Fatty breaks down in tears, fully aware of what is about to happen. With his fists studded with brass knuckles, the boss continues to throw punches. He eventually stops after transforming the poor man's face into an unrecognizable wreck. The blood of his master's final victim is likewise given to his pet dog. Since the boss has already set his eyes on our boy, and we all know how that will end, I believe that Fatty is the final victim. Later, we cut back to Michio's dilapidated home, where the child and his ailing mother are spending the night together. He worked so hard to build that place, and now it's all for nothing, and the child feels the weight of it all. He feels powerless and unsure of what to do in this dire circumstance. The boy is quite okay with the ailing mother remaining in Michio's crib, but she doesn't want to be a burden. It's not like he's doing them a favor out of kindness. This is a transaction after all. They provide him with knowledge on the island, its operations, the whereabouts of food and other supplies, and any other important details that could be useful in thwarting the thugs in charge. He is curious about every detail, no matter how small. Kyo, on the other hand, is tired of Michio's lifeless tone and uncaring expression these days. The child's lid is completely off. However, my guy believes that Kyo shouldn't be acting in this way toward a complete stranger. Although Kyo is aware that his friend lost his memory, he is perplexed by the way his entire personality altered. Does the Matrix have a bug? What that child is saying makes Michio feel bad on the inside. He was a soldier who was shot dead by his own buddies in a past life. He is certain that a senior, most likely Captain Beck, was responsible for his murder. He isn't prepared to sit around in these slums after everything that happened. He will undoubtedly get out of this filthy pit and get retribution on all of the traitors who killed him. He is seen performing his regular body strengthening exercises in the morning in an attempt to regain some of his previous strength. Making sure his arms and core receive enough exercise, he begins with handstands before progressing to vertical push-ups. If he truly hopes to live here, he has to bring his old body back. He is going about his morning business when he sees someone running in his direction. It turns out that the person who basically threw our buddy under the bus is the same one from earlier. This youngster is here now to remind Michio of their mind shift. The only consequences for being late are penalties. My boyfriend chooses to visit the mines instead of dwelling on the past, such as how this crazy ass betrayed him right away. There, he might get some useful information. Under the supervision of their supervisor, all miners in underground mines stand in double line. Our child and some of the thugs he severely thrashed yesterday are among them. When they see our lad and the crew, they begin to tremble. It doesn't take Michigan long to identify these men. At last, the boss yells an urgent announcement. Zeha, supervisor in charge of Team G, is dead. This news hits like a wrecking train, shocking everyone, especially Zeha's former lackeys. With Zeha out of the way, the boss appoints Number as the new leader of Team G, the same guy who betrayed our boy. Of course, this pussy has a hard time digesting that he's now taking the seat of the guy he feared most. About the mine, slave miners are forced to do physical labor from AM to PM. They work deep inside the tunnels under harsh conditions. The brutal, unforgiving workplace causes many health problems, especially for people in their S. It's hard for them to keep up. So more often than not, they get penalized for working slow or just taking an impromptu break. Either way, you earn a beating. Thankfully, this time they have Number as site supervisor, a whiny and untrusting guy, but kind-hearted. His name is Masa, and he gives his fellow workers enough encouragement to lighten their mood. He doesn't just support one teammate, but visits everyone, offering words of encouragement. Seems like this guy isn't so bad after all. Even Michio is glad to see this. Out of the blue, the boss of the mining camp starts yelling at the workers. He aggressively pushes Masa away and steps forward. For all he cares, he hates people who act soft and all pruki. This is a place where only real men are needed. Just as the poor miner is about to get an unnecessary beating, my guy throws his pickaxe right at the bastard's feet and pretends his hand slimmed. He immediately apologizes, though aggressively. Not that this apology is enough to satisfy the rabid bastard who's getting pocky just because he got a senior post. As he's ready to throw down with our boy, the big cheese himself arrives, much to this bastard's dismay. The boss has overheard everything and wants his lackey to fight the big guy instead. By the way, his name is Kusanagi. Everyone in the mine panics seeing the big cheese show up. The cocky sucker who used to terrorize every worker now feels terrorized himself. He would never dare fight his master. Disappointed, Kusanagi balls up his fist and throws a devastating punch to his lackey's head. The others are losing their minds, while Michio takes note of the skills this man has. Kusanagi precisely targets pressure points and knocks his opponent out. With the lackey down, the bastard is ready to fight the next guy. Since the only reason he came here was to fight our boy, he takes this chance and tries to drag Michio into a duel. But Michio has a strict rule against fighting without reason. Of course, Kusanagi isn't backing down. Not until he exchanges a few fists with our boy. So, the bastard lunges at Michio, who in response quickly gets into stance, ready to fight on such short notice. The blonde brood has been meaning to weed out the rat, who gave his underling a beatdown. In response, our boy quickly throws up his hands to protect himself. The lunging Kusanagi unleashes a flurry of blows, hammering down on Michio's defenses. Each attack is heavy, forceful, and hard to defend against. Even those watching, like Masa and his group, are fully convinced that Kusanagi will kill him at this rate. Michio is feeling totally overpowered and has no way to get back at them. He looks for a gap and paces himself. He can't help but acknowledge that his opponent is a professional fighter who is throwing the best blows he can. He executes his assaults flawlessly, yet no human can sustain them. Due to his wide swings, Kusanagi is vulnerable to a counterattack. Taking advantage of that, our boy swiftly sidesteps the assault and delivers a forceful blow to the bastard's face. Unable to comprehend that their friend actually connected an attack against Kusanagi's face, Masa's gang is speechless. However, even after taking advantage of the opening, our boy's punch did not land, thus it was too good to be true. The blonde dude saw it coming, and is genuinely amazed by a competitor who can compete with him. Bro is about to continue fighting, when a loud voice tells them to stop. The miners immediately bow down in reverence when they see Director Akichi. While he's out here attempting to project Aizen's aura, they treat him with the utmost reverence. At last, Michio is aware of the man in charge of overseeing the island's affairs. Kusanagi's actions seem to irritate the director, who thinks that if he continues beating captives to death, they would continue to lose them. If he doesn't stop, he even threats to tell the bloodied Marcus about the situation. Kusanagi shudders at the thought of the blood-soaked Marquis and changes his mind. Bro displays his endearing side and pretends to have been attempting to assist the miners by offering some advice. Akichi reminds the brute that he is only capable of striking objects by walking by and grilling him to the ground. He is much above things that truly require room temperature IQ. He is furious over the comment, but even though I would really like for him to hit his own boss, it's not like he can. Akichi pulls up to remind the kneeling slaves that their duty is to concentrate on mining rather than consuming the dirt off the ground. They are only sub-tier humans in his eyes, and their sole purpose is to continue mining until the day they pass away. Their lunch break is cut into the scenario. Michio is really depressed when he eats, since it is so bland and chilly. His coworkers are envious of the supervisors, who always seem to have delicious meals, and they fear the flavor. The slaves plead for a day when they can eat a lunchbox just as delicious as theirs. His friends are whining, while Michio is busy eating. Unexpectedly, Masa shows up to give our son a taste of the delicious lunch he was given. He wants to share the joy of delicious food with Michio because as a supervisor, he is among those who can enjoy it. But our boy abruptly declines the offer, which completely shocks Masa. Although no one would turn down food in such a manner, our boy's refusal was influenced by his personality. He dislikes having to repay favors. When he hears that, Masa chooses to sit directly next to him and explains that it's his way of apologizing rather than owing someone a favor. Do you recall when Seiha was assaulting him? He accused Michio of the act and placed the responsibility on him. He must therefore use this as a means of atonement because he cannot continue to believe that he has deceived someone. When our boy sees that Masa is genuinely a good man, he smiles and agrees to comply. In an attempt to make up for one untruth, he takes a piece of chicken and puts it in his mouth. However, he is only prepared to go so far with Masa's lunch. And once our lad declines, Michio's houndish companions attack him from behind and beg to eat, while Masa is occupied appreciating what he has done. Masa shows his concern for his soldiers by sharing one piece with each of them after deciding to give up. A superior interrupts their little respite and yells at them for having too much fun. He gives them the instruction to return to their places as soon as possible and continue working. Michio discovers that these slaves are essentially worthless in the eyes of their masters after having a normal workday. Without adequate meals or breaks, they work incredibly hard. One of the men collapses after reaching his breaking point, demonstrating the toll that such a demanding schedule takes. In an attempt to assist the man, a worried Masa rushes over to see how he is doing. However, at that point, one of his superiors appears and tells him to step aside. He flips the victim over to check his pulse after kicking his body. Sadly, the result is ruthless and frigid. The man is dead, and the superior yells at Group G to promptly dump their fallen comrade without even saying a prayer for him. These guys are living this kind of life. Masa sheds real tears for a fallen human, and his body trembles. He does not want Michio to die by self-burning like this man did. But what use will his counsel serve? The miners were nonetheless made to perform hard physical labor by the bosses, who showed little concern. That's correct. Not even their own teammates passing can give them a moment to relax. Michio accepts the facts of life. Human life is valued less than trash here than anywhere else on the planet. Finally, the manager rings the bell, marking the end of the agonizing day. Masa rejoices at the completion, even if he can hardly keep his own body together. Michio, meanwhile, seems unconcerned, as if he hasn't even left for work yet. Bro is actually made differently. He tells his pal that he doesn't mind the physical hardship because he's accustomed to it. Masa, however, finds it unbelievable. By now, he's beginning to wonder if Michi is human at all. To cut off their meaningless chatter, the manager yells at them. The employees are compelled to strip at the end of each day, by the way. They are also instructed to go upstairs without stopping while they are tired and nude. The manager pushes them past their comfort zone and checks their bodies to make sure there isn't any stealing. By the way, if the thief is evidently prepared to go that far, this also entails checking their ass. Once the examination is complete, they are raised to the surface. The G9 group is stationed here in order to receive payment. They get paid a pitiful 1,000 yen for a single day's labor. For this, 16 agonizing hours. To the slaves, however, they feel as though they have $1 million in their bank account thanks to this payment. I'm concerned that he could marry the bill because of the way one guy is acting. The condition of these slaves, who are enjoying themselves greatly in such abhorrent circumstances, disgusts and shocks Michio. The slaves suddenly feel truly happy, but Michio is unable to comprehend their feelings. The sight of the cheerful sale venue has them jumping about like fools. To show their appreciation for their hard effort, the seller, a stunning young woman, is offering them a flat 20% discount. Naturally, our boy was unaware that there was such a thing as a mining appreciation day. However, he is rather taken aback by the fact that all of his colleagues are rushing around like animals in an attempt to close a deal. His pay is reduced by 1/3 when the identical man from earlier orders a beer and a bag of chips. In addition, he gives in to his avarice and eats a snack of squid. Similar to him, the other slaves become agitated, and the lady orders them to stop. Beer swiftly intoxicates the slaves, giving them a unique joy they would never otherwise be able to experience. Some individuals attempt to avoid spending all of their money, yet others waste it all in a single day. Michio is once again questioning these people's actions after seeing them waste all of their money on fleeting pleasures. These same slaves feel like they are on top of the world right now, despite the fact that they were treated like trash only a moment before. As our youngster discovers that he doesn't spend a dime, Masa appears and expresses guilt for being jealous of others. Masa is obsessed with a suitable aim, even if he shares his coworkers' desire for happiness. He will need to save a lot of money in order to buy the Paraso Pass. Michio is intrigued and immediately asks him about the pass's details. Masa comes to the realization that his pal over here has promptly forgotten the promises made the day they arrived on the island. They were referred to as slaves back then, subjected to cruel treatment and made to work unconscionably long hours. They were simultaneously handed a final glimmer of hope. Slaves would have the opportunity to buy the Paraso Pass, which would grant them permanent freedom from the island, as they were able to save up 1 million yen. Everyone pledged to save money in order to leave the island at that time. Yes, the man who was longing for his bill and wearing glasses was the one who was yelling the loudest at the time. Now that he has squandered all of his money, he is a fool who is drowning in his pleasures. The only one of them who remained steadfast in his objectives was Masa. Back then, he declared that he would never spend a single yen, regardless of how much he was tossed around. Whoa, this man must be a big fan of David Goggins. In any case, Michio's mental puzzle begins to fit together. You see, the slaves are offered two unrealistic dreams, which is why there isn't an insurrection from them, despite being in the worst environment on Earth. The first is the hope-filled dream, the Paraso Pass, which they are unlikely to ever attain. The second is the desire to indulge in pleasure, which will occupy them constantly. The psychological concept of drowning someone in pleasure is something that the island's administrators are well aware of. Our son is thoroughly disgusted by this process because it is so well designed. He then takes the note out of his pocket and asks Masa how much more cash he needs to get the pass. Masa is concerned that he will face consequences if he answers the question because it is so delicate. Michio assures the man that he doesn't want to divulge any information, but he is sincere about his intentions. He even donates his own salary to Masa's cause, since he thinks a man like him could at least be able to go away. We learn in the following scene that Masa's amazing savings fall just 60,000 short of his objectives. Michio estimates that Masa will be able to buy the Paraso Pass in 30 days, after adding that his savings will now be doubled. Michio's friend is grateful for the gesture, but he doesn't understand why someone would go to such lengths for him. Our boy tells him not to worry because he is also doing it for himself. More importantly, though, he assesses the ocean's condition and inquires as to whether any boat docks are nearby. Masa thrashes his arm and asks Michio to examine it closely on his own. Since cliffs encircle the island, there is really nothing that can assist them. Michio, on the other hand, is curious in exploration and tries to descend to have a better look. He is immediately warned by his pal that trying to leave the island is a major offense. It's hilarious that our son doesn't think laws still apply to a place as awful as this. Michio is climbing down when he hears a noise. He scans his surroundings till he eventually spots the worst thing he can imagine. The drone is armed. Not just any drone either. It is of the finest quality, military grade. While his companion struggles to understand why a drone appeared out of nowhere, Michio quickly attempts to climb back up. Michio roars at Masa to start sprinting as soon as he climbs back up. The fool isn't sure, but once a bullet grazes his face, he realizes our boy isn't playing around. They both begin running as if their lives depended on it. While our boy is amusingly telling Masa to keep his mouth quiet, Masa is out there yelling at the top of his lungs. The drone unleashes a torrent of shots, all of which in true main character manner, miss. Michio glances at the drone and immediately recognizes it as the SG Nemesis version 1. This machine focuses on a moving target and doesn't let up until the task is completed. Even if you manage to steal Andrew Tate's Bugatti and flee with it, the mad pursuer will continue to pursue you. Hardened troops on the battlefield shuddered in terror at the sight of this murderous drone. Our boy switches course and steers the drone into a dead end after realizing they can't run indefinitely. Masa agrees that it's a horrible idea, but for the time being, he can only rely on Michio's proposal. They change courses and sprint at full speed, forcing the drone to follow them into the dense woodland. While Michio is out here trying to help Masa keep up with him, it quickly catches up to them thanks to its godlike tracking powers. Regretfully, not everyone has superhuman endurance, particularly if they have just finished a 16-hour workday. Tension is higher than it has ever been. They're getting tired, and if they keep going at this pace, one of the bullets will kill them. But suddenly he has an idea. Michio believes that this is their way of avoiding death after spotting a helpless small mouse perched atop a limb. Without any delay, Bro adds the mouse to his inventory and begins to run. When his countdown is complete, he tells Masa to cease moving. Masa, who is exhausted, believes that stopping in front of a machine that will cause more holes in their body than they can count is a bad choice. Our youngster starts his countdown, ignoring Masa, and speeds forward. Our child finally indicates the conclusion of his countdown as the drone keeps firing a volley of bullets at them. Michio holds the mouse in his palm and apologizes for what he is going to do, putting all his faith in this one chance. The drone then reassesses its target's location after he flings the poor little guy against it. The drone detects the fleeing mouse after making a fast adjustment. It locks down on its target and unleashes a barrage of bullets that will eventually kill the creature. For our fallen soldier, there are Fs in the chat. But Michio and Masa were able to avoid a near-death experience because of that window of chance. By the way, the drone is still here. They only need to wait out the detecting phase. The drone makes every effort to scan its surroundings and track its target, even approaching Masa directly to pick up on even the smallest movement. Michio, however, is meowing so forcefully that not a muscle in his body will move. Sweat streaming down his face is the only issue. Fortunately, it makes so little noise that the drone cannot detect it. It really alters its course and considers the execution to be finished. Masa and Michio manage to escape the fury of the insane pursuer in this way. Our boy is aware that it was a near miss. He assists his friend by explaining that the murderous device they had faced was a drone created by the Adlamir military. Its only goal is to kill without mercy, and because of how brutally it does so, it is unable to distinguish between comrades and adversaries. The model was never used in combat again, since it was deemed to be cruel and flawed. The thought of utilizing such a drone on the battlefield truly astounds Masa. It looks terrible, considering that the drone was considered so deadly that it was prohibited from being sold to other nations. Our child is deep in thought and doesn't understand such a brutal killing machine is being deployed on this island. There are more mysteries on this island than he initially believed, which makes him wonder if the Adlamir military has any connection to it. Following a near-fatal experience with the drones, Michio eventually makes it back home. The young child is thrilled to see him alive right away. The child's mother reminds him that he should concentrate on properly receiving their guest, even if he appears worried that Michio took so long to return. When an interested Michio approaches to check what's cooking, he learns that Kyo is preparing a specialized stew. You can hardly call it a specialty dish based on how it appears. However, because of the leftovers, Michio is shocked when the child calls this dinner a fancy treat. Yes, it's fancy and leftovers. It merely illustrates how awful these slaves' lives are in reality. Without further ado, let's get started and see how good Midget Gordon Ramsay is. Michio thinks it will be a tasty, savory lunch, as he puts a spoonful in his licks. But when you look at his face, it's hard to call it that. Bro describes the flavor as extremely acidic and wonders if this garbage is even safe to eat, making him second-guess his life's choice. Even his miserable military rations from the past were far superior to the dog chow he's currently eating. The problem is that despite the dish being so dreary and repulsive, Kyo seems to be enjoying himself immensely. Yes, Michio is incapable of understanding such a response. The child seemed to have never tasted anything better in his life. As Michio is puzzled why the child is so fascinated by this type of food, he finds out that leftovers are actually very hard to find on this shabby island. Kyo finds this stuff to be nirvana, because, in the end, he had to consume even worse food while growing up. His mother had a worried expression on her face, while the youngster eats earthworms like they're tasty noodles. Michio makes fun of her inability to even face her child. When the young boy spots a small bit of meat among the scraps, he celebrates with all the awe and delight in the world. Finding a bit of meat is like winning the lottery to the slaves and island residents. The child joyfully scoops it up, and when their meal is finally finished, he turns to face our lad and holds out his palm. Michio is perplexed and unsure of what he should be giving up. The child exclaims, looking irritated, that he deserves the food money because he prepared a delicious supper for them. Sadly, Michio has nothing to offer because the one salary he did receive was promptly given to the other man. Hearing that our child turned over his money to a total stranger has saddened poor Kyo. When Kyo finds out that he will continue to give over his daily salary to Masa going forward, the situation becomes even worse. Pinning the blame on our boy, who is presumably praying to God that he doesn't have a heart attack after eating this load of trash, the child is so surprised that he spills his priceless bowl of stew. In any case, Michio finishes his lunch and says he has a plan. While Kyo is devastated that his priceless stew was wasted, he tells the child to follow him and pick up all the leftovers. The child chooses to heed our boy's advice despite having no idea what he has in store. The very next scene shows them in the wilderness, looking down at a basket filled with scraps. Kyo has no idea what this man is going to do in the middle of the night. Michio uses the stew bowl and surprisingly tosses it on the floor. Kyo thinks it's a waste of valuable food, but that's not the idea. Our son is smart, you see. In order to set up a trap, he plans to use the foul leftovers. Do you recall that basket? It is intended to serve as an anchor to capture any animals that attempt to consume the food. Our boys are certain that they should be able to capture tiny animals with the trap, now that it is set up. Naturally, even someone like Kyo, who lives on a gutter island, is repulsed by the mere notion of rats. Here's the thing, though. Michio explains that sewer rats are known for carrying diseases, but those found in the wild are a whole different story. They're an excellent source of protein to be used in the time of need. Also, he's totally fine with catching something else if Kyo's uninterested in eating rats. Michio invites the kid on a longer walk. Some time passes and the kid's curiosity begins to bother him. He wonders if they're planning to set up more traps to catch prey. It doesn't make sense to set any traps in thicker parts of the forest in Kyo's eyes. However, the hardened soldier understands the importance of such overgrown thickets. You see, animals generally feel much safer in places where they can find easy cover. Speaking of which, Kyo's eyes are bewildered in shock when he spots Michio's trap. It has actually caught hold of a bird, thanks to a simple bait trap. With this little guy in sight, Michio thinks they've got enough to give them a nice dinner for the night. Kyo's eyes radiate in joy, as he agrees with Michio's suggestion. Let's switch perspectives and check out what's up with the admin building of the mining site. Assessing their output, the Akechi learns that they churned out nearly tons when it came to mining. However, 9 slaves died in the process because of exhaustion. With so many deaths piling up in the span of 1 week, it's a surprise to no one that their malnutrition and weakened states are catching up. Weshima, the deputy director of the project, speaks for the lives of the people. The kind-hearted man understands that they should help them out more with proper food and rest times. But of course, being the disgusting piece of shit that Akechi is, he tosses the papers up in the air in an effort to look cool. The word human life disgusts him, as the people living on this island could barely be even called that. Even though Weshima tries to protest, Akechi dismisses him and doesn't give a flying fuck if more people are dying. All he cares about are the results, which are consistently going higher every week. This greedy bastard wants to increase his rank among his peers and climb to the top. He's disgusted by the mere thought of staying on a shitty island like this. He also doesn't care if they end up extinguishing the life of every slave at their disposal, so long as he can make good use out of him. His sinister and cold words leave Weshima shuddering in shock. Unfortunately, since he's inferior in rank to Akechi, all he can do is agree to the leader's thoughts. Discussing the next item, it appears that the total wages for the week ended up around million yen. Total goods ranged about million, and their current recovery rate appears to be close to %. To make it simple for those watching, these clowns made almost all of their money back spent on salaries. Remember the drunken fools who enjoyed a feast of pleasure and spent all their money? Yeah, that's actually a trap set to extinguish all their salaries and reinvest it back. Akechi thinks that these lowlives are comparable to animals who are caught in a simple trap without any thought. The director inquires for any unusual reports and learns that a slave appears to be saving money for the promised Paraiso Pass. Of course, the very mention of such a fool makes the entire department laugh like clowns, because they think it's impossible to save up 1,000,000 yen with such a strategy. At the same time, Akechi is intrigued by the mention of this slave and wants to investigate him. The following day, Masa shows up at Michio's door, asking for him to come out. But it appears that our boy's already outside and calls him from behind the shelter. Masa curiously takes a look, but he can't believe his eyes. Michio's out here training to fight Goku. This man is looking ripped as hell, even on an island where they barely give you any food to survive. Without halting his training, he asks what Masa wants from him. Completely stunned by what he's doing, Masa explains that he actually came here so they can go to work together. But he's at a loss for words right now. Michio stops his training and explains that he's trying to strengthen his weak body. After all, if he's going to have to accomplish his goals, he certainly needs to have the strength to catch up to his previous level so he can kill the bastards who betrayed him. Of course, Masa doesn't know a thing about Michio's past life and simply thinks of our boy as a weirdo for training just before a hellish workday. He looks at the man in front of him after just waking up. At the mining site, Masa immediately identifies himself as Michio's coworker. Unfortunately, because Michio has been giving the little boy all of his money, the name Masa agitates him. Kyo claims they were intending to use the money to purchase food, therefore he asks his pay be refunded immediately. Because they never have enough money to fill their bellies, the poor child emphasizes how miserable they are. Masa's memories of a moment when his younger sister Yui was hungry are triggered by Kyo's look. The young girl enjoyed the food prepared by her elder brother, and Masa would take care of her and cook for her. The recollection of him preparing Yui bread rusks, the delight he experienced in creating them. Masa would like to relive all of that. He thus kneels before Kyo and expresses regret for stealing Michio's money. Have you noticed that he's not berating a child or attempting to explain things in a way that only adults could comprehend? We refer to this as emotional intelligence. He promises the boy that he will bring a gift the next time so they may forget this instance, coloring a new experience for Kyo. As long as the gift is worth a good sum of money, Kyo is willing to take it, while being a little irritated. Our boy puts on his shirt in anticipation of the grueling task that lies ahead. They are in the mines in the next scenario. Some of the slaves are nearly exhausted from their inhumanely hard labor. Actually, when Masa sees how dangerous Haida is, he tells his other friend Ishizuka to take his place. Ishizuka hops over to Haida's bulky sack in a hurry. He is adamant about putting his work on hold so he can rest. The director acknowledges Masa's remarkable leadership abilities. Unable to comprehend that Akechi himself has arrived to greet them, the workers fall into a stunned expression. Masa's sincere concern for his co-workers' welfare has pleased the director. It seems that the rumors concerning his competence are accurate. Masa, meantime, is out here wondering how the director suddenly became interested in a simple bug like him. According to Akechi, the admin group has observed Masa's capacity to provide excellent work for his team, while consistently managing appropriately and without resorting to violence. Out here, The man is trembling in disbelief before lowering his body to express gratitude to the director for his good remarks. Akechi grinned. I have a sneaking suspicion that he is planning something. Masa is informed by the director that he came just to award the young man with a special bonus for demonstrating such skill. Masa is truly surprised because it's not customary for employees to receive rewards for their efforts. But Akechi thinks that receiving one could encourage him to work more. For some reason, Washima is horrified in the background, indicating that a horrible event is about to occur. Even our child Michio is watching the scene unfold with keen interest. The crafty director adds that since there are many nefarious individuals in this mine who could take his award, they should speak somewhere safe in order to obtain such a reward. With those comments, he entices Masa outside and begs him to accompany them to a more secure area. He immediately asks Michio for advice, telling our child that if he keeps going at this pace, he might actually fulfill his aim of getting the Paraiso Pass. But our boy's senses are keenly aware. Something about the situation seems dubious, so he wants Masa to remain vigilant. Naturally, overcome by the thrill of the prize, Masa believes everything will work out, and that it's a sign of good fortune and a reward for hard effort. Therefore, he rushes to catch up to Akechi's party. A smile appears on Kusanagi's face as he calls Michio by name before departing. He asks our youngster whether he is concerned about his friend's safety, while grinning menacingly. In the conclusion, Kusanagi informs Michio that they will be hosting a party at Masa's house. That's precisely what happens in the next sequence. Embarrassed to welcome his friends to a place that is a shit stain, the innocent man brings Akechi's group back to his house. The director retorts that their discussion would be better in a private setting. Yes, I am beginning to notice some serious warning signs. Masa gets Fs in the chat. In any case, he swiftly invites them inside and apologizes once more for his unclean and uncomfortable house. He urges his guests to settle in while he prepares some tea for everyone to enjoy, his face beaming with happiness. However, that's when it occurs. The ruthless director's mask comes off, revealing his contempt for the dirty location. Akechi orders his guys to check every square inch of Masa's house before Masa can even comprehend what is happening. Masa is powerless to stop his guys as they swiftly destroy everything in search of any indications of money. Kusanagi gives the poor guy a vicious blow to the stomach, causing him to throw up on the ground in an attempt to catch his breath. A man then mounts on top of him while holding both of his arms in place. Because he is unable to comprehend what is happening, poor Masa's suffering reaches a new low. Aizen Wannabe discusses Masa's plan to purchase the Paraiso Pass while posing in the stereotypical glasses posture. The director wants him to disclose the location of all his valuable assets. The poor man remains speechless until the ruthless director, who treats him like a subhuman, pulls him by the hair and tells Masa that he dislikes wasting time. He is told by the ruthless Akechi that he will lose more than just his money if he doesn't divulge where it is. The director is appalled at Masa's low IQ, while poor Masa discovers that the special bonus nonsense has always been a hoax. Masa, reduced to tears and in a pitiful state, begs for forgiveness, claiming that he is only a slave and has no money. Akechi, however, slaps him to the ground because he dislikes wasting time. The director gives his soldiers the order to carry out the next stage of the operation as the slave is not complying. The man approaches the helpless Masa, who is afraid for his life, while holding pliers in his hand. The man shoves the tool right in his mouth, fixating its grip on his frontal incisor teeth. While Masa grovels in agony and sorrow, pleading with them to stop, the man mercilessly begins to extract his tooth. His protests are ignored by the insane director, who gives his soldiers the order to do it. The outcome? A toothache that's on par with your typical dental appointment. Masa loses his wits in shock and pain, and blood splatters from his mouth. The slave is reminded of his role and his previous statements by the director. Masa wouldn't have had to go through this torment if he had just surrendered the spot. However, it doesn't stop here. If Masa doesn't want to talk, Akechi is more than happy to do it again, and each time the slave doesn't speak, he loses another aspect of himself. The workers who have just finished their workday for a break are shown to us in the following scene. They are discussing Masa and how he and the director disappeared for a while. Although some people believe that the operations chief has developed a strong affection for their companion, our boy isn't so sure. He sees Washima, the deputy director, coming back to them, but he has a dejected and disappointed expression on his face. Michio inquires about Masa's health because he wants to know what happened to his friend. The deputy director makes every effort to appear ignorant and uninformed. Michio, however, retorts that he is aware that these men are plotting something in the background. Washima didn't anticipate being confronted and placed on the spot. However, he gives the man some suggestions for Michio's protection. If he loves his own safety, he doesn't want him to look further. Our boy is annoyed by the council, but he is unable to change the circumstance. We learn that Masa's cruel torture hasn't stopped in the following scene. No, he is unable to speak without howling in agony, because he has lost the majority of his teeth. When Akechi sees the slave groveling on the ground, he tells him to quit resisting, or else he will never be able to eat in the same manner again. Masa roars again, mouthing what few words he can in his pitiful state. He is unable to speak because he lacks funds. The director becomes even more irritated by his unyielding behavior. Masa loses another teeth. This is the bit that is incredibly horrifying though. His kidnappers drive the same sharp tooth deep into his gums this time, creating excruciating pain. Akechi smiles after putting the tooth back in its proper position. It's likely that the bastard believes he's being kind about it as well. The torturing techniques used by the director are obvious. The slave will lose all of his teeth, he will ensure. He will then force his guys to replant them inside. As Masa continues to lose his teeth and then has them painfully pushed back, this psychopath sings to the melody of extraction and reimplantation. They have completely ruined his mouth, showing no signs of mercy or intention to quit. He was actually dealing with the most reprehensible people on the planet, those who genuinely enjoyed seeing other people suffer. Masa's horrifying screams sadly juxtapose with the director's immense delight while the same song plays. The director questions whether the slave has finally decided to change his mind about the money after yet another torture session. Masa's face lies between his broken teeth. This young man is only reassured by the pleasant recollections of his sister. He has hung on for so long because of that freedom, that happiness, and that future. Masa is prepared to do whatever it takes to leave this shabby island, so he actually intends to continue, vowing never to give up. At home, his younger sister Yui needed surgery due to some health issues. His sister was upset about her brother's money, even though the surgery went well. Masa informed her he had a new job and would make sure to make a lot of money for her, but he didn't let her feel anything. And for that reason, Masa is determined to keep going even if he is at his lowest point in life and has endured unspeakable suffering at the hands of his captors. His sister shouldn't be left alone, in his opinion. I must pause and acknowledge one thing. Masa has just surpassed Michio as my favorite character. What a wonderful man. The filmmaker is beginning to exhaust himself. He finds it incomprehensible that an ordinary slave is fighting and being tough in this circumstance. Masa responds by refusing to change and sticking to his narrative. He's broke. Until Kusanagi determines it would be wise to intervene, Akechi is about to run out of alternatives. This meathead kicks his own men as his first action. The abrupt action of Kusanagi even shocks the director. The blonde brute believes that they need to change their approach because their current methods aren't working. Before Akechi can even inquire about his desires, Kusanagi seizes the whining slave and confesses that he is indeed rather pleased with Masa's soul. Despite his pride, this man swiftly devises a Haymaker 9000 and sends it straight into Masa's stomach, breaking his ribs in the process. Masa is gasping for air as he spews blood in yet another wave of unbearable agony. Once again, the blonde is impressed and believes that the most fun people to torture are those who remain silent even after being beaten. In essence, this man is having fun while undermining Masa's perseverance. Another blow is delivered by him, the identical blow that can break a bone with each blow. In his imagination, the tormented slave depicts this scenario, feeling that Kusanagi's blows were even more excruciating than the teeth-pulling agony he had to face all day. Kusanagi takes immense pleasure in striking him and gets ready to strike him once more. Even Masa is aware that he might not make it through this strike if it hits his head. His last thoughts are once more the priceless memories of his sister, who genuinely just wants her brother to survive. As the soul-robbing blow strikes Masa's body, Akechi chuckles and remarks that if he speaks, all of his suffering might end. The vicious beating goes on. Kusanagi treats him like a punching bag and annihilates him from head to toe. Masa's sister's cherished face is used as a coupled torment. Every hit he takes sends him flying, yet he still won't speak. The director is beginning to lose his cool. He yells at the slave to simply show him where the money is. Masa continues to remain upright in spite of all the hell he has experienced. He doesn't change his position. There isn't any cash. What a man. After finishing the torture, Akechi offers the meathead complete liberty to take his own life. With immense pleasure, the man delivers a devastating blow just before the scenario ends. Michio is hurrying to get to his friend's house during this time, obviously anxious after speaking with the deputy director, but there's nothing inside when he gets there. All that was visible was a pathetic man who was covered in bruises and blood. Michio's name is uttered by a man who is hardly breathing. Michio holds his friend in place because he is horrified to see him in such a state. Because of his military background, he is well aware of Masa's terrible situation. The majority of this child's lower ribs have been cracked, and his respiration is also happening far too quickly. Given the possibility of a rib piercing one of his lungs, This is devastating news. Masa's face appears to be broken in several places, including the nose and eye sockets. Not to mention the fractures to the head. He has obvious tooth loss and excruciating stab wounds inside his gums. When I see Masa in this position, I feel as though Michio's aspirations for his friend's life are gradually fading away. With such severe bruises and a weak pulse, our youngster can only wonder one thing. He's desperate to find out what kind of people would keep torturing someone to this degree. Masa composes a number of phrases despite his condition, and expresses regret for not heeding Michio's counsel. Ultimately, their true motivation was his money. However, he remained unbroken despite all of this torment. He gave his life to safeguard it. Given Masa's current state, the money is worthless, thus all that resolve hardly counts anymore. He thus makes the honorable choice to give his friend Michio every last cent. However, Michio dislikes being owed favors due to his personal convictions. He actually believes that his friend will recover, and he wants Masa to take advantage of it to benefit himself. But it seems that Masa's soul has already come to terms with the harsh, unforgiving truth. If he doesn't give the money to the one person he trusts the most, it will all be for nothing, because he won't live and will die in his friend's arms. Masa then discloses the location of the money's storage. It's right up ahead. The money is hidden beneath a marked tree that is right adjacent to it. Masa is well aware that he is putting in a lot of overtime to earn this sum. It means a lot that he's giving it to Michio. He only requests that Michio locate his sister once he leaves the island. Our boy is taken aback when a sister is mentioned. Despite his passing, Masa still finds joy in the memories he gave her, such as the day she tore up her favorite skirt to give her brother a gift for all of his hard work. After the torment Masa endured, I can barely fathom anyone grinning, but he still finds joy in the knowledge that Michio will locate her and assist her. But our youngster believes it's a promise much above him, and isn't confident in his possibilities. Screaming at him in denial, Masa gives in to fear and begs him to look after his only beloved sister Yui Hanjo. Masa wants Michio to convey that even in his last moments, her bigger brother never forgot about her. Masa's spirit shatters, his body goes limp, and he departs for eternal rest after saying those words. Even though I've only met this supporting character for a few chapters, I already have a great deal of respect for him. If you share this sentiment, please like this video. Making sure his good friend has a fitting farewell is Michio's burden. He shuts his eyes and bravely and silently accepts the moment. There was a remembrance of his sister in each cry that Masa shed. A lovely conclusion. Someone nearby observes the event, as Michio brings his friend's body outside for a dignified funeral. When Michio reaches the tree Masa mentioned, he immediately begins excavating the area. He eventually finds a box within. He takes it out and opens it to see his friend's hard-earned savings. Michio informs Masa that he has obtained the sum while turning to face his body. Do you recall the cloth his sister gave him? His left arm is bound with it. Michio decides to save this as a last memento of his friend, and promptly dissolves the marriage. He expresses gratitude to his friend for saving him, and uses it as a mask by bandaging it around his face. We all assumed that things would settle down when Akechi and his thugs suddenly showed around. Now that they've found it, they're shocked that Masa suffered through the torture until he died, losing both his life and his money. The crazy filmmaker sees it as a fitting conclusion for a bottom-feeding garbage dump. While Akechi swiftly orders the inconsequential slave to turn over the money, Michio only looks at him blankly. Refusing to give over the amount, our son stands up and gives this jerk the cruelest side-eye I've ever witnessed. Michio is viewed by the director as only another stupid slave. Thinking it will be as simple as the last time, he orders his guys to get the money as soon as possible. With the belief that their numbers give them the upper hand, 3 men leap forward. However, if you're competing with the main character, what use are numbers? Michio looks awesome as he throws a vicious initial punch that leaves the man speechless. He goes further than that. He executes a complete combo against the second person as well, demonstrating excellent mobility from the first assault. When the last idiot tries to surprise him with a sucker punch, Michio strikes him in the face with a jaw-breaking 9,000 uppercut. As if they were just children, the 3 guys are quickly put down. At last, our youngster speaks up and says that his friend trusted him with the money. He will utilize the war money for his own purposes, and he will make sure to destroy anyone who tries to steal it. The director chooses to bring a gun to a hand-to-hand combat because he believes his soldiers are worthless. This man believes that a Glock is the solution to every issue. I realize that he isn't actually holding a block in this situation, but you get the idea. The sight of the weapon alarms Michio. He can't precisely uppercut a bullet with his speed, but because of the vanity of the blonde brute, Kusanagi intervenes, thinking that using a bullet isn't worth it. He appears to be giving the director sound advice, but in reality, all this man wants is a chance to end their argument from the beginning. Bro wants to take advantage of every chance to square up. Give Goku this guy's address. The director gives Kusanagi the order to finish things swiftly, but Michio is unfazed. The two combatants adopt a fighting position. Being Captain Obvious, I'll state that our boy is obviously outclassed in this situation in terms of strength and stature. Kusanagi is aware of this and attacks like a predator closing in on his prey. Michio takes little damage in the beginning of the fight as he blocks and deflects his blows. He has gained knowledge about Kusanagi's fighting style from this brief encounter. He even takes the time to remark on our boy's amazing footwork, demonstrating his professional boxing talents. However, Kusanagi feels that evasion is only possible for a limited amount of time. He is unaware of Michio's innate ability to spam limitless dodging though, as he does just that and lands a forceful blow to the man's liver. At first glance, it appears that the attack caused significant harm. However, the blonde over here feels nothing, even after the onslaught, which is a fantastic example of how size and strength are portrayed in this scenario. Kusanagi is acting as though the liver strike hardly tickled him, despite the fact that a liver blow is no joke. This indicates that Michio will need to step up his game to defeat him. Kusanagi responds with a powerful blow, and our kid is literally flung backwards by his assault. Michio takes a moment to keep his position after the strike, because it is so vicious. In his commentary, Akichi adds that he believes a cat can only avoid a tiger so much. Michio returns to the ring and throws a flurry of punches to knock Kusanagi down, in spite of the crap talk. Although the director will be amazed by his powerful blows and quick reflexes, a formidable foe like Kusanagi will be too strong for him to defeat. Speaking of which, our lad is warned to block with both arms, as the man prepares to deliver another strong blow. Devastatingly enough, the attack connects and sends Michio flying once more. He's got to reclaim his position once more. This time, however, our boy is standing on the precipice. Death is certain if he falls from this height. Kusanagi continues to be angry because he thinks that avoiding will not benefit the slave much. However, Michio waits for the punch using his amazing fighting IQ. He then allows the punch to pass right by him, taking advantage of the small window of opportunity to slam a vicious hook into his opponent's face, destroying at least 20 brain cells in the process. After the impact, Kusanagi is truly less stunned by the attack's connection. Even though his body is strong, the human head can only withstand so much physical strain. Michio might have begun to change the course of the fight with his first effective blow. Instead, Kusanagi is quite happy that he's being bullied for once. He sees this conflict as a real one. They both return to their combat positions and valiantly get ready for another battle. The blonde observes the counterstance position of his opponent, and he's prepared for it this time. Thus he actually halts his punch just in front of Michio's face. In fact, this is known as a feint, and Kusanagi makes great use of it to set up his actual assault, a kick. From the director's point of view, our child is closely examining Kusanagi's motions and considering him to be just another boxer. Here's the problem though. This blonde brute's fighting style is further complicated by his ability to kick in between blows. Michio's instincts take over in a matter of seconds, and he swiftly shifts his position to deflect the devastating kick that was aimed at his head. Kusanagi is stunned for a long minute by his effective defense, which gives him a chance to open up. Taking advantage of the moment, our boy takes the ground and tackles him down. The filmmaker is deeply surprised by Kusanagi's complete and utter overtaking. Not even the brute can think of anything to say. It seems as though Michio anticipated his plan to use a kick and make a feint right away. Michio reveals that he was able to interpret the slight change in his lower body stance when he was manhandling a man twice his size, telling him that his opponent is also accustomed to kicking. After giving that little explanation, Michio shoves the feces out of his face, causing Kusanagi's face to burn. As Michio is ready to throw another elbow to terminate the fight, this guy is essentially done for. However, Kusanagi is able to turn the tide in his favor somehow. He manages to seize our son by the neck, putting him in a very precarious situation. Though he immediately forgot about one thing, the blonde meathead believes it's unfortunate because Michio came so close to winning the fight. They are not subject to the regulations of a martial arts fight. He pushes our boy into the ground and begins choking him out after saying this. This battle is a real brawl, where anything goes. Michio has few options here, and is having trouble breathing. Akechi is embracing entertainment as the director. This is the first time he has witnessed Kusanagi go all out against someone. In the past, many slaves rebelled, but it never worked out for them. Even if some of them were proficient in martial arts, Kusanagi's hands ultimately destroyed them. The problem is that this man is a street fighter, a brawler, and he fights dirty. Because of this, he believes he is superior to common martial artists, who are much beneath him. As he chokes Michio on the ground, he is confident due to his prior battle expertise. Fortunately for our kid, the proper technique is applied fast, and he angles a palm strike into Kusanagi's neck. In addition, he puts his leg in a position that prevents his opponent from gaining a firm grip on him. Kusanagi is beginning to understand that this isn't your typical martial artist. Our kid swiftly demonstrates his dominance by locking Kusanagi's arm with his legs. Michio then uses the same maneuver to shift the momentum to his lower body weight, slamming Kusanagi to the ground and regaining his chances of winning. There isn't even time for the blonde brute to take it all in. Michio holds him in place by pushing him down and locking his arm away. Michio reminds his beloved opponent of the stuff he said earlier, realizing the situation they're in. Everything goes if this is a true fight, right? In order to prove his point, our lad sends Kusanagi a river of howling pain after shattering his blasted arm. He's Michigan's little bitch since he lost an arm. Even if Kusanagi considers this to be a brawl, our lad goes on top of him and emphasizes that this battle is even less to him. George Sai, the most dangerous guy the Aldermere army has ever hired in their special squad, is the only one involved in this murderous rampage. His battles could scarcely be described as brawls because of his reputation for possessing unparalleled fighting skills. Kusanagi is only interested in what a simple slave has to give. He is unaware of any of this. Using a shady strategy, he points his fingers directly at Michio's eyes. In response to a shady move, Michio makes a shady attempt of his own, smashing his head against the fingers' force, instantly shattering them and causing Kusanagi more agony. The problem with Michio is that, in his previous life, he was only ever exposed to a life-or-death situation as a soldier. He lacks self-control and is a murderous machine. He still aims to crush Kusanagi's head with a full hammer drive of his elbow. Fortunately for Kusanagi, he managed to avoid it in time, but there was no hesitancy at all in that same damn elbow. The brawler began to wonder who the hell he was up against once it even created a dent in the ground. The act of taking a life would have been hesitant for any normal individual. Michio, though? There seems to be no hesitancy on the part of a simple slave. For him, it's just another Tuesday. He doesn't even show emotion or concern, and he's acting like John Wick, treating it like any other kill. Kusanagi ultimately comes to the conclusion. He is up against a person who won't stop until he murders his objective. The brawler attempts pitifully to block with his shattered arms. However, he created a gap that Michio could easily take advantage of, hitting a pressure point in his neck and exacerbating his excruciating discomfort. The situation is now entirely the opposite. Kusanagi rapidly realizes that he has a serious misunderstanding about Michio, who is holding him down and squeezing his opponent out. There is no question in his mind that Michio is a real-life murderous machine. That's the last thing on his mind, before our youngster punches him viciously in the face and knocks him unconscious. Let's take a moment to discuss our boy's fighting style. Michio, whose real name is George Sai, is an expert in Krav Maga, an effective combat art. It is frequently regarded as the most effective martial art in the world for close combat situations and is utilized by the majority of special forces across many nations. By the way, our son isn't satisfied with simply knocking someone out cold. Fixing his sights to shatter Kusanagi's head to bits, he picks up a large stone from the ground and uses it to pound his skull. Michio swings the stone all the way down without hesitation. Kyo's words begin to resurface in his thoughts, just as he is ready to attach the stone to Kusanagi's head. Michio is prompted to reevaluate his conduct after recalling the youngster who pleaded with a merciless killing machine to refrain from becoming a murderer. The stone is thrown into the water by him. With Kusanagi out of commission, the battle is ended. That is, until this obstinate jerk wakes up a minute later to go again. Even though he's lost half of his teeth, he's still yapping about how much he's enjoying the fight. Michio soon learns that round 2 is set to begin, and the guy intends to fight to the death. However, our kid hears Akichi loading his rifle from behind before any of them can take any action. He swiftly avoids the line of sight after hearing it and dodging the shot before it is fired. Bro ultimately took the blow for free, which was unfortunate for Kusanagi. Our boy is in difficulty because he is going straight into the sea after avoiding the contact. Kusanagi is out here dealing with the wound from the bullet in his chest, but he has to worry about falling, while the director is out here angry because he missed his one chance to kill the slave. Michio, incidentally, survived by catching the edge of the cliff. However, he doesn't even feel bad about accidentally shooting Kusanagi. He sees Bro as a failure who failed to kill even one slave. He is cursed by the blonde brute for his abrupt treachery. However, when his servants are no longer useful to him, this insane director believes it is only just to put them down. Kusanagi surges forward in one last act of rebellion. Yes, the man with the gun pointing at him is being charged by Bro. It gives Akichi immense pleasure to shoot him repeatedly. I'm not sure what kind of narrative armor this blonde jerk is wearing, but please explain how he manages to survive repeated gunshot wounds. What the fudge is happening? Even the director asks. Kusanagi fires a strong Texas smash directly at the director's unsightly face in his one last act of rebellion. Akichi is aware that he will no longer be able to see himself in the mirror if he swallows this attack. In order to put an end to Kusanagi's flaming outburst and terminate the battle, he turns on his aimbot and attempts a clean headshot. Akichi soiled his pants even though the fist merely halted centimeters from his face. He simply was not able to witness its bodily defeat. The dead body of Kusanagi falls to the ground, and the director is left giggling uncontrollably. He believes that kicking Kusanagi's corpse around is a fine way to celebrate the occasion and get rid of a useless mad dog like him. You know, I'm serious. He can't stop kicking it about because he has so much beef against his dead corpse. Akichi yells at his vanquished subordinates to stand up and submit a report right away. He intends to accuse Michio of stealing a gun in order to place the responsibility for Kusanagi's passing on him. At last, he returns his focus to the man in question. From a distance, Michio is looking down at him, weighing his options. With his amazing fighting skills, the director commends him for making it this far. However, Michio is also reminded by the evil director that no matter how hard he tries, one man cannot win a war. Weapons and strategy ultimately prevail. Michio unexpectedly raises his hands in the air, perhaps indicating his surrender. Akichi, who takes immense pride in the fact that even a formidable fighter fears being caught at the end of a gun, finds this gesture surprising. Michio remains silent and continues to hold his attitude of submission. After all, the director does not wish to spare his life. He merely squandered his valuable time and ammunition. Akichi approaches the man haughtily and remarks that the slave made a bad decision by running to the edge of a cliff. At last, Michio speaks up and says that he truly made the correct decision. A strange sound is heard, and the director wonders where it's coming from. Do any of you recall the previous aimbot drones? Michio's attempt to descend the cliff had in fact just awakened them. The filmmaker is fully aware of what will occur. We all do, I believe. The director's guys were shot dead right away before they could comprehend the situation. Akichi realizes that the drone is about to rock his world as one of the guys falls to the ground. Their dejected expressions are a sight to behold, particularly when they are facing a computer that has locked down its targets and doesn't care who you are. Thinking that this will be sufficient to save their lives, two of the other men begin to flee in the opposite direction. However, the drone detects their movement and engages in chase mode. It will not stop until it has accomplished its only goal, which is to eliminate the target. Let's assume Michio's perspective for a while. He muses that the insane hunter is infamous for pursuing and mindlessly killing anything that moves. The same thing occurs when the two men are satisfactorily shot dead. Still holding a gun to Michio's head, the director is nearly trembling. Our lad knows that Akichi, this scoundrel, hasn't even moved a muscle yet. This is a result of his familiarity with drones, particularly the Mad Pursuit drone model. They both come to a halt as a result. The drone will destroy them both if they attempt to escape. As the director enters his thoughts, the drone returns to examine the location. How a single slave could have lured the drone all the way up here is beyond him. The drone's existence was unknown to the average slave on the island. Akichi is damned about everything else, even at that point. Now that the slave in front of him has shown himself to be far more dangerous than he ever imagined, his only concern is killing him. Michio resumes his conversation before firing, pointing out that the director is aware of the drone, in a delightful reminder to the director. He also says that if he does pull the gun, Akichi will be in a dozen holes himself, not just Michio. His remarks startle the director, but he believes our youngster is bluffing. He believes that despite the detecting technology's intelligence, it is insufficient to detect a trigger movement. After learning of this, Michio changes tactics and urges the director to attempt shooting him at that time. He'll quickly determine whether it's a bluff or not. While our son continues to attack him and brand him a coward who is incapable of doing anything but hurling insults at others, Akichi is at his wit's end. He's actually made the director so afraid that Akichi isn't even speaking without his permission. The idea of a slave playing with him enrages him to no end. Akichi wants to murder the trash heap in front of him for having the audacity to utter such a thing. As it is, he thinks that the drone won't be able to track movement beyond a few centimeters if he presses the trigger. At the same time, his mind is plagued by the persistent anxiety of the drone reacting in that tiny window. When it comes to his life, he does not want to take any chances. It's interesting to note that Michio was lying, since he is unsure if the drone can detect such subtle movements as pushing a trigger. However, by doing this, he has given himself some opportunity to pass the time. After hovering for a short while longer, the drone will return to its initial position when it believes its task is complete. Our youngster plans to charge at full speed to take down the director, smash his head, and take charge of the situation in that tiny window. The patience war has begun. While Akichi is trembling at his chances and unsure of what to do, the drone hovers over both of their lives. A powerful blast of wind unexpectedly blows out from the jungle to where they are both standing. The director is given his one chance to fire when the wind gust manages to knock the drone off balance. The slave is promptly shot by the bastard. Furthermore, this isn't one of those tales in which the main character can avoid gunshots with ease. But the best he could do was graze our boy's shoulder because of Akichi's stormtrooper aim. The drone promptly detects Michio's movement and locks him down as a target because he reacted to the gunfire. Our boy is aware that this is awful news. Without hesitation, he rushes forward. The drone begins firing a torrent of bullets at him. Michio decides to jump from the cliff when the bullets totally miss their aim. But here's the issue. The director finds it amusing when Bro is shot in the thigh, since he is unable to evade in midair. There is a sense of defeat in the last scene. The body of our boy is plummeting off the precipice. He has been shot twice in one sitting and has no defense. Michio does a final move as he descends, reorienting his body in midair so that he can land with both feet in the sea. This dumb drone doesn't stop there, even though Michio may have fallen into the sea. Bro starts shooting down into the sea because he wants blood. Fortunately, the bullets miss their target, but that doesn't change the fact that our son is seriously hurt. He takes advantage of this opportunity to get away by moving farther under the water, giving the drone the impression that it has successfully executed its aim. Akichi is waiting with a rifle in his hand as the drone returns to its starting point after saying those words. Since he's not foolish enough to argue with the drone, he checks the cliff and discovers that the slave has died. He enjoys his own grandeur and finds amusement in the sight of victory. He's giggling like he's watched a Matt Rife or Trevor Wallace skit. Let's go back to our boy. When Michio comes out of the water, he notices that both the director and the drone have vanished. The threat of his injuries takes the place of his present threats. He is bleeding out in the water from a bad leg. He rapidly stops the bleeding with the fabric from his mask after realizing that the bullet is still inside his leg. The next step is to treat the wound as soon as possible. So he swims as best he can, bleeding out, and makes his way to the edge. He hears something, though, all of a sudden. There's a freaking megalodon out here, trying to kill this man. He is about to be sliced in two by the enormous-ass shark. But fortunately, he escapes death. It dawns on him. Do you recall the blood? The shark was drawn all the way here by it. Michio realized in this instant how dangerous he really was. He was up against more than one shark. He was up against the ocean's top predator. The rationale behind the existence of the Jaws movie, the great white shark, a dynamic beast designed to travel at amazing speeds and kill. The shark's bite force is far more than a 1-ton pressure force, and that same entity is out there, attempting to consume our protagonist. With yet another evasion, Michio escapes becoming the shark's supper. But since he can easily avoid glazing its speed, I don't understand why he bothered. The shark's tail whips him with such intensity that he loses his breath in the water, even though he was spared the bite. Not only that, the shark swiftly modifies its course for a second attack. Michio rises in an attempt to catch his breath. At this point, he notices a dim outline of the huge white, rapidly expanding. Michio takes the initiative and dives into the water, realizing that he is going to be attacked from below. He begins aura farming in a T-pose with his arms spread wide. Our child has really come up with a great plan. As you can see, sharks enjoy ambushing their victims, but in this instance, our boy's masculine T-pose makes it very evident that he had observed the ocean's ugly-toothed death machine. It's unbelievable that I'm actually saying this. However, this man's move actually just momentarily stunned the shark. He now has additional challenges as a result of his bleeding leg, motivating the shark to attack. Once the shark detects the fragrance of Michio's blood, his entire plan is destroyed. He's very vulnerable right now. However, this man isn't going to give up. Already, he is focusing on the shark's key areas. He understands that attacking the creature's weak nose is his only option at this point. The unbreakable human soul is resolved to continue fighting as the enormous shark opens its jaw to administer a devastating bite. Michio is able to deliver a powerful blow to the Lorenzini's nose, aiming for the great white's organ. He briefly believes that his plan was successful. Unfortunately for him, though, it blows up in his face as the shark crushes his body. After being forced out of the water, Michio realizes that his physique is completely inferior to theirs. Bro is hurt while battling a great white shark without any weapons. He seems to be going through life in Elden Ring. In any case, Michio catches his breath once more, terrified that the shark could still be waiting to attack, exploiting Michio's blind spot this time. The injured guy just escapes the bite as the enormous shark opens its jaws to eat him. At least that's the good news. Here's the bad news, though. He was dragged along with it after his shirt became lodged in its jaw. Michio acknowledges that even the pinnacle of human strength pales in comparison to the power of an aquatic apex predator, as the gigantic shark drags him all the way down. Our youngster fights valiantly, but when his body is ragdolled into the deeper sea, he gives up in despair.